The button's been pressed. The boys are back. We got episode 37 of Martin the Fishbowl. This is the third episode in a row where I have the honor of kicking us off.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Explain the mic thing.
Good luck. So, again, we got a team of guys in here today. First time we've been able to do that. Normally it's just Marty and I and some poor soul that we're badgering. Today we got a group of 5. We got the NoSweat team. We got Justin, John, and Colin with us. It's been exciting to I've been trying to get these guys. They've been in the back of my head for a long time. I wanted to talk to them and hear about it because I've been a NoSweat believer since Colin made the jump, and I kind of knew about you guys. So we are very excited to hear about the story. Again, before we even press record, we kind of faked the guys out and got them going in on their pitch and said, hey, boys, let's press record. I thought we were going to do that. So, again, it's good to have you guys here and share your insights and your stories with us. We're kind of excited to dive in and hear about the journey, the lessons learned, and kind of what the future might hold for you guys. So,
Yeah, no, we'll start it off with basically the story-wise. We'll have to be handing the mic a little bit, so hopefully the layover time will be good. We got to watch. I got my right hand's got to be fast. Your left hand's got to be fast today, Davey. But basically, we're finding out this was not, and I was under the perception that this was an earlier company. There are some roots here. Yeah. And we just learned that. We just learned there are some heavy roots here in the NoSweat company, and it was obviously the story part of it of how you guys came to this is pretty cool. Yeah. So unique wise, let's get with we'll start here, John, with you. Kind of start with we got to talk about Call of Duty.
All right.
Because not only did I just find out there's some roots, there's also some gamers in front of us that found some things to do.
Retired gamers, yeah, exactly. So Justin and I know each other dating back to high school. Both went to Minnetonka High School. We're friends there. Kind of got to know each other well initially playing the original Call of Duty 2 on the computer. Had a whole clan and team and lots of practice, playing, competitiveness. At one point, I think we were top 50 in kind of the world, which, I don't know if I'm bragging or if I'm just completely nerding myself out. But however you want to look at it, obviously learn to work together, learn to compete, learn to hate each other, love each other, etc. And kind of, friends for a while from that. Company, we'll get back into NoSweat now. Company kind of dates back to about 2008. Justin was a freshman in college at Gustavus Adolphus. Had convinced the professor to let him take a upper level entrepreneurship class that he was taking with his brother, and they had to write a business plan. And so they were sitting around the dinner table with his stepfather, who'd been officiating hockey for 15, 20 years. And he said, look, a lot of us refs actually cut up maxi pads and put them in our hockey helmets because we haven't found anything that absorbs sweat better. Sweat bands will absorb it, but it still leaks out. You get this kind of soggy thing on your forehead. Skull caps will wick it away, but again, with the hockey helmet on, there's nowhere for it to go. And for refs, it was a much bigger issue because obviously they're skating on the ice for an entire period. They got the half shield, so when they bend down to pick up the puck, you got sweat running down. So they had to come up with a solution. So he went out there, looked around. There was nothing out there that did kind of what this product did. So filed some initial patents, got some test samples made by some manufacturers in China, and then kind of throughout college just kind of toyed with the idea, came up with concepts, handed out samples to other athletes to try out, to about circa 2011, 2012 when he graduated and him and his brother decided, hey, look, I think we got something here. They'd had some pro level tested out and got really good feedback. So they set out to do an initial manufacturing run, which going along with that, they had to raise some money from friends and family. I don't know, initially...
Yeah, so I connected with you randomly after not probably talking to you the entire time we were in college.
Yeah, I think we happened to randomly be on a ski trip out in Bridger Bowl, Montana.
Very random.
And you had some product with you, and I think I threw it in a beanie, which was like the one time I was wearing like any kind of athletic headwear.
Yeah, you were skiing in jeans and a blazer.
Well, are you serious?
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah.
Jean jamming on the snowboard hill?
Yeah, and I ripped the jeans, so.
We got top 50 in the world of Call of Duty jean jamming on the ski hill. This is getting good.
Yeah, just really talking myself up here, ladies.
Yes.
Yeah, so I tried it out, and Justin had gotten some seed capital from some of his friends and family. I loved the idea, brought it back, showed it to my dad, who was looking for potentially some stuff to invest in, and he thought it was a great idea, and came in with some of the initial outside capital along with a couple other investors. At the time, I was working as a consultant for Deloitte & Touche, which I did for about 5 years. But yeah, my dad came in, and they went off, and him and his brother did an initial production run with a company that produced maxi pads, and they repurposed it and produced some product for us, and made about 1 million units, and they were off to the races.
And I will say, you summed that up pretty quick, but in theory, I'd say the last semester of college, we started putting together business plan stuff. I ran into you probably like 4 months after that,
Yep.
And at that point, we'd kind of figured out how you'd go about manufacturing a product like this, which clearly not my brother nor I had any clue. And then I ran into you guys, and at that point, I think my family personally, probably just from like the legal side and normal business stuff, we probably put in like 150, 200,000 at that point. And then John's father and one other gentleman were the first two outside investors, and they kind of they made us work for it and redo the business plan much better. And then we ended up raising, I think, around 500,000.
It was over the course of about 2 or 3 years, but I think it was about 500,000 total through various subscription agreements and whatnot.
Yeah, I think we raised 450 and then another
200 or so.
after.
Yeah.
But the first 450, we spent every penny of that on our first production run. Found a manufacturer that built the machines, and turned out we needed to seal the product, and everything we made was defective.
So to clarify on that,
so that's called phase planning for day one.
The way the product works, essentially, and I know we got a camera here and you guys can see it, but essentially as you sweat, it wicks the moisture off your forehead, locks it inside, and converts it to a gel. So that gel then will be complete. This outside will be completely dry to the touch in about 30 seconds, and that gel can't escape, so it's locked inside. The issue that the initial manufacturing run happened was the gel would actually leak out the sides because the perimeter wasn't sealed.
And we heard that the first day we had someone try it.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh my God.
It's like a diaper.
So that's similar technology, repurposed for obviously sweat, and so that was the issue. Essentially, had to pull back. They had all kinds of distribution deals lined up. We're starting to sell it into the pro leagues and whatnot, and had to just pump the brakes, pull everything back, and come up with a solution. And I mean, you can probably talk to the hell better than I can, but
it took probably 6 months of me just building the craziest contraptions on earth to try to like melt the materials together. In theory, you said wringer earlier. We literally took like a 1960s dryer washing machine that like you used to wring out and dry your clothes, just squeezing it through. So I like built some crazy conveyor belt off one of those things and put heating units on it, and like it was a nightmare. And I'd say after about 6 months, my brother, who had a newborn wife, mortgage, and everything, pretty much had to go the other direction. So I was kind of by myself at that point. Cashed out my cash value life insurance for $5,000 at that point. Bought a machine to fix it after finally figuring it out, and that's kind of like what put us in motion, I would say, for the next like 2.5 years.
And by fix it, he doesn't mean the 1 million units were put in the machine and they were fixed. He means one at a time. You go like this, push a button.
Yeah.
Okay,
Seal it.
so I'm saying, because you guys have 400, you sunk 450K, all of it, and so then you go, oh shit, this doesn't work. So instead of just eating it, you had to
Fix them.
fix it.
Fix it, yeah. Because obviously they can't go raise more capital after something like that without any kind of proven results. So this was what, 2012, 2013, I would say, right in the range there.
Yeah, it was.
So how old are you guys?
So you just turned 29.
I'm 29.
I'll be 30 this year.
No, I'll be 31 this year. Yeah, in October.
Yeah, so this would have been 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, and then John and I were connected because we went to business school together at the U.
Oh, sure.
And so I was out in the Southwest, Arizona, LA, selling medical devices for Medtronic. So I'd been doing that for almost 6 years. And John came to me with the company and kind of gave me some of the story And with hockey, I had some connections in hockey. Obviously, Dave and I played hockey together growing up.
The network is extensive.
And so, yeah, you're a pretty tight-knit group. So getting into all those channels and seeing everyone liking it, I just knew there was a need for it in all types of sports, all type of hockey.
So you moved back here.
Yeah, so
John
well,
called you.
not right away.
Okay, yeah.
So John and I were just more so travel buddies. We're both single guys, and so like
we were buddies
college too.
And then I think I was going to Vegas some random weekend, and I was like,
weekend?
well, yeah, pretty much
single guy.
Pretty much, yeah. I was traveling with Deloitte,
and I was living in Scottsdale, and I was gonna go work up at Kingman Hospital, which is in northern Arizona. I'm like, crap, I'll just drive up to Vegas and hang out with John.
I drew up like a Facebook status. I think a couple people I was going with bailed, and I'm like, hey, I got a few extra spots in a room if anybody wants to make a last-minute trip to Vegas. And Colin, who I didn't even know that well from college, we hung out a few times.
Yeah, lived right next door to each other, but
sure.
he was team frat, and I was team non-frat, so I was like, those guys.
It was more team, hockey bro, so, take your pick.
Both deadly weapons.
Both dead inside.
But look good.
But anyway, yeah, so he came on that trip, and we ended up becoming real good buds. And, with his hockey connections, he's like, I love this, and both of us were working the grind for the corporate gig. And, great jobs. I mean, Deloitte and Medtronic, very respectable places to be. But, you get in that grind, and you're capped at what you can do. As hard as you try, as much as you do, it's kind of like it's like a curved grade, right? You can try just hard enough to get the B curve, and it's easy to do. But if you want the A+, you got to, like, grind. And it's like, it's point of diminishing returns at a corporate gig. You don't, if you absolutely crush it, you're still just getting that kind of, call it 10 to 15% bonus raise, whatever it may be.
And I think both of us realized we had that entrepreneurship spark in us, and we were already comfortable with the corporate job and the corporate world. And we're like, well, we're not married yet, we don't have kids yet. When's the best time to take a risk in life when we have a little bit less to lose? So we can always go back to doing consulting or medical device sales. But
those aren't going anywhere.
You're not going to always have the chance to grow something and make it your own.
So this was probably, like I said, 2012, 2013. Colin and I are, traveling around having fun, just promoting the product, not really doing, just pimping it out, whatever it may be.
Weekends,
and, he got us through Dave into the NHL gifting suite, which got us in the hands of some additional pros. Justin had already gotten in with the New York Rangers through, I think, Stahl, who had a cut on his eye and started using it.
Oh, nice.
A lot of equipment managers had it, but they weren't forcing it on the players. But we started
So we finished our original run.
Yeah.
Loaded up a trailer, drove to Florida for a trade show, like the National Sporting Goods Association one, the big one, and then from there went to St. Louis to go to the PHATs, the NHL equipment managers. So by the time we got to Florida, we already knew it didn't work, and then we got up to the NHL guys. Mark Stahl got a cut on his eyebrow, and he kind of got the Rangers using it, and I think I officially found the fix in March of 2013, and it was the biggest uphill battle of everyone telling you to stop.
Justin was basically in this basement by himself, doing the sealing, doing the business end of things, doing the sales. I mean, it was, you had some help from your family, sealing and whatnot, but you were pretty much in a silo.
It was literally my mom, who's CFO of United Healthcare. She would come help get inventory packs filled after work. That's how nightmare it became.
Well, so stay on that, because obviously that's got to be the hardest piece, right? Is you've got all this excitement, you got the vision, but at the same time you're not there yet. And this is initially started in 2008, and now you just jumped up to 13, and you still didn't know if it was going to work. So and from all of you guys, because obviously you got belief in it, you've got movement in it, you've got the downstairs in the silo just hammering the mad scientist mood, right? But at the same time, what made you guys believe that this was going to work and needed?
I think I was just kind of brought up where failure is not an option and you can solve any problem you want to. So it was kind of just I'm gonna stick with this thing as long as I can. I think we could pretty much at a max fix the inventory. We definitely didn't have the capital to make new stuff, unfortunately. A new machine is $4 million, so that was out of the question.
No, different.
So we were kind of capped at about 60 to 80,000 in revenue units. Same thing for the most part.
Per year.
Most.
I'll say this: I probably met with 1,000 different business people in Minnesota, and every single person I ever asked to meet to just get advice and pick their brain, one person out of everyone declined. So like one thing I'll say to any young entrepreneurs is like, go find anyone you want. There's a 99% chance they'll meet with you, and like it's by far the fastest path to learning things you don't know.
Now, and I don't want to gloss over that because that's not easy. I mean, that's a I don't want to, it might be a skill, maybe it was inherently put, driven in you from your family, but that sucks. I mean, as a sales guy, like, you got to almost kind of just be like, black out and not care.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're like, you get crushed by every little rejection and defeat, this ain't your racket. So, like, was that a learned thing, or you just decided, like, you know what, man, I don't care. I'm just going to keep, I mean, was it resilience in belief, or just inherently inside of you to be like, nah, you're just one of those guys that can take it?
Well, I mean, there's always stupid people in the world, right? And like, they say 9 out of 10 businesses fail, and I personally believe it's because 9 out of 10 businesses are terrible ideas. And like, I don't know. I mean, people like to talk about what they know, so like it was never really an issue. I think on the investor side, I mean, you just get used to getting the door slammed in your face.
Yeah.
I mean,
but
to that note, we've probably given the investment pitch over 1,000 times in the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years or whatever collectively, and I mean, it's autopilot at this point. I mean, I think I had to do a minute pitch the other day for some TV show, and it's like they told me an hour before I got to do it, and I just, all right, I walk in, I like sat down, I just started giving the pitch, and she like cut me off. She's like, "Did you practice your pitch?" I'm like, yeah, like plenty of times, but let me try once more, and then just rattle it off, in a minute. I mean, it just becomes so second nature because you're so used, and there's not a question we haven't heard. And as far as the rejection, I mean, probably 1,000 pitches, and I think we have 30 investors maybe.
I think we have like 37 maybe. Yeah. And like, I think everyone loved the concept, and like that's half the reason we were doing it and never threw in the towel, so to speak.
Yeah.
But no, it was, I think the smartest thing we did was get advice, like straight up.
Yeah.
And like at that time, it might be a sore subject for some people in the state, but like bite tech, armor bite mouth guards, was kind of a big thing at that point. And like one thing that just got drilled home was focus. And like we had limited manpower, basically me, and inventory, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna crush it in hockey. Only hockey.
Smart.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how you came into the picture, Colin. And like I got a couple NHL refs to use it at one point after some of the college refs used it, and I started giving them 10 free packs with everyone I sent out. And after like the second season, they started ordering 20,000. And that was like a big validation piece I personally needed to basically say, hey, John, I think we got something here.
Yeah. I mean, it was
the growth crazy. I think when I first heard about the company, the refs were ordering like 8 and like 8,000 in the old process. So think how long that takes. That'll take
40 days.
Yeah, over a month to fulfill just that one order. Yeah, because you need to fix them one at a time. So I was like, that's cool. And the next year it was 12. And I'm like, okay, well, and then now this year's about 20,000 riders for these refs. And it was like 5, 6 teams that had players wearing it then. And then through like John and I just kind of doing these NHL events with Dave Pignota at the fourth period in Toronto. He runs these events, and all of a sudden it was 12 teams and 15. Now, like after this equipment manager meeting a couple of weeks ago in Orlando, I think it's like literally every team has ordered at some point. They have guys on the team wearing it.
Congratulations,
boys. Minnesota Wild were the last team.
One of the last teams.
Right in your backyard.
Right in your backyard. It all takes time, right? We got like the Beauty League in Minnesota now, which has helped. They've been great. We always pass out product from there. Getting, we don't need to go into athletes yet, but getting TJ Oshie involved has been good. And so, just seeing that growth and, like Justin said, staying focused. Like, we only had so much inventory and so much power, and John and I weren't even full-time yet, but, focusing on hockey.
Full-time, we weren't doing anything but just sharing Facebook statuses. Let's be
honest. We got to go to
Vegas. We got to do all the cool shit, but didn't have to do much of the grind. But let's go back to the timeline a little bit, too. I mean, this was, you were still in Shakopee in that warehouse, I think, at this point.
And
still by yourself.
Forced you to come out there one night.
Yeah, because I think I was sitting with my dad. We're like, what's going on with this NoSweat thing? Like, is it going anywhere? Or like, I think we shot you some like just ignorant email, like, Justin, is this viable, or what's going on? You're like, I need you to come in. So we went in, and he walked us through kind of everything he'd been doing, the validation. It was like, wow, like, all right, there's something's going on here. But first, like, you need some help. Like, you can't do this alone,
Need
right?
some manpower.
So right away, we're like, you need to hire somebody at least at a minimum hourly rate. Like, I don't even know. I think I invested like $1,500 in the company or something like that just to pay for him, or it was something stupid like that, right? And he ended up hiring the guy that worked at the Chipotle that took his order every day by his office in Shakopee.
He liked hockey. He showed up every day. He remembered
he wasn't stingy with his portions, so he would give it a little bit more.
So Brian Galvin, who was he's working at Chipotle, came on and started helping Justin in the warehouse, doing the sealing, doing the ringing, just basically all the tasks that needed to be done. And that was probably about 2013, 2014.
That was 2014,
yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, 2014. And now he's still with the company, and he now is like the head of our manufacturing, fulfillment, and everything else. So he's grown. He's grown up with it quite a bit too, which has been fun for him, fun for us. So yeah, got him on board, and then we kind of made up our minds. I'm like, collectively, look, if we keep going with this,
theoretically, you made up your mind.
There was still some convincing that needed to be done.
Yeah, but it was the decision was, look, we can't just keep having you seal these products and expect to grow this company. Right. So we need to sit down, hit reset, put together what's called a private placement memorandum is what we ultimately ended up doing. PPMs for short, but it's essentially an offering that you'd bring out that you could publicly advertise to raise money. So through some of my connections, we met someone that was, he's kind of like in investment banking a little bit, and they do capital raises. Unfortunately, they do much larger type capital raises, but he decided to take us on, introduce us to an attorney, and pretty much every night that I was in town, I was over at Justin's from 6 till 3, 4 in the morning, so whatever.
Or on the road.
I mean, or on the road, and it started out, Colin flew into town one weekend, and we literally wrote down everything NoSweat related on little sticky notes and stuck them up on a wall. Like anything we could think of, like maybe this, maybe that. Like, it could be investment related, it could be product related, it could be development, it could be future, it could be athletes. I mean, I think we had 15. I don't even know how many sticky notes on the wall, and then started organizing them into categories. And then from those categories started pairing up duplicates, eliminating things, et cetera, to kind of lay out the groundwork for what a business plan would look like to put it together and start formulating.
And I'd say, sadly and honestly, I got over 20,000 hours into this stuff, and when I couldn't do what I wanted to, I would spend my time thinking through how I would do it if I could do it.
And the business had moved from
mapped up
thing
to the business in my head, at least thoroughly, and we had a good weekend. Do you guys have a picture of that?
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
We just sent the picture of us three.
Yeah, there's the picture of the sticky notes on the wall that we used.
There's us just grinding. I think we didn't go to bed that weekend, but we're just mapping in Justin's basement now that we pulled back into there, just figuring out how we were going to raise money, breaking down. How many pages was the PPM when it was done? So
we did this, and this was complete overkill. I don't even know what we were thinking, but what it did is make us think through every aspect of the business.
And it taught you guys everything.
There's the roller that flattened out them out when they came out of the big Gaylord. So that's an old school dryer. Sorry,
that's the ringer I was talking about.
Yeah. But we put together one of the most insane financial models I think I've ever seen. I mean, it was, we had probably 15 tabs in this Excel spreadsheet that all linked into each other. And we had down to we were predicting a random variable too. We're doing 5-year forecasts, and we have, the company's done $30,000 in sales. I mean, it's kind of a joke, right? But it really, we still reference this private placement for tidbits and things. I mean, the financial modeling we did, we still kind of use as a starting point anytime we put a new round together and adjust it accordingly. But it was some next level stuff. And none of us really had I built a decent real estate portfolio, and I had a good degree of financial modeling from that we used. But otherwise, it was just kind of teaching ourselves. A lot of Googling,
to give you guys credit though, you guys are awesome on Excel. Both really good compared to me. I saw them working the Excel spreadsheets, and I'm like, oh gosh. I took one class in business school, and these guys are they're all linking to each other. It'd take me 2 years to do that.
Well, so that's what I would be interested for all three of you to answer this, because entrepreneurship is first and foremost. It's awesome, but it's terrifying, right? And so you kind of look at it realistically, everyone in the room is somewhat young. You're 30, right? 31. I'm 29, so we're all relatively the same age. And so essentially you look at that, not only do you get rejection early on, which I would have to predict is 100% of any startup of anything, as you're going to go through that, and your pitch has to be developed over and over and over again, right? The product has to be developed over and over again. So from your guys' end, and you use the word a lot of seeking out advice, well, on the path that you guys are on right now and talking and reminiscing, what is some of the advice you would give if someone, your 21-year-old selves, stood in front of you and said, what's the best advice as I go down this terrifying road?
I mean, when it comes to business plans, I've spent thousands of hours on them, and that's just, I mean, we've refined it so many times, it's just like insanity, I'd say, at this point.
Yeah.
But like, when it comes to writing a business plan, you shouldn't follow a template. Like, high level, you need to map out your business, and I think a lot of people try to follow a template, which kind of shoots them in the foot from day one, in my opinion.
Yeah,
because they stay rigid.
Well, no, it's just like you're filling in data instead of creating your plan, right?
Yeah.
What's funny about that perspective is I'd probably go the other direction. I'd say find somebody that's done it before, use a template, copy it, and then tweak it to your desire. But think on that. He said one end of the spectrum, I said the other. So what's the lesson there? Find somebody that actually complements your weaknesses and strengths to work with.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the most detail-oriented people to the point of driving me absolutely insane, and I'm probably way too high level. We'll figure it out. Somebody will figure it out. Let's just make a qualitative decision, move, go. Where he's like, let's plan out every last detail of it before we step foot in the next door.
Relax.
Well,
I'm in between that.
Yeah, but point being,
10,000 steps ahead, and it pisses John off sometimes.
right? Exactly, because I'm like, all right, what's happening next? Let's focus on that. So, but with that, to that point, you need both. Right, and if it's only my end of it, it'll just be very quality. It'll be very high level. None of the actual detailed stuff will happen. But if you do, strictly that other end of the spectrum, you're never going to go anywhere because you're going to get lost in planning. Right, so you need that balance and offset of each other. And I think finding people that complement you, even if you may not see eye to eye on everything, is pretty important in anything you do.
And one thing to mention, I mean, we have 2 of my family members working here day to day. Working with siblings is definitely challenging, depending on the sibling. I'd say, as most people know.
Yeah.
And it was tough working with my brother, I'll be honest. But it's been like, start with something, go pitch it, keep revising until you start getting money.
I guess my 2 cents with the whole process of entrepreneurship and all that. Once you get past the point of actually getting capital, you have money, your business is ready to start acting. Don't spend the money. Like, you need to get as much advice about every decision you're making. And we made a bunch of mistakes. We can talk to a few of them if we want, but like, we were like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, when you talk to these people that are coming with, hey, this is why you need our marketing strategy. It's going to be XYZ per month. And then you're, as like a young mind, you're like, that completely makes sense, and you just bid in and you're doing it. And then all of a sudden 3 months down the road, you're like, gosh, they didn't deliver on anything. We paid them what we said we were going to pay them. And so once you get capital, like, think about how long it took you to get that capital. More than likely you had to pitch 10 people to even get one that was interested, and then they could string you out for 5 meetings, right? So that one person took 3 months to get 15 grand or 10 grand from. So
truly think about what it would be like if you didn't have that operate as if you didn't, because you see shiny objects all over the place. I mean, you're going to get the more success you have, the more publicity you have. There are more snake oil salesmen out here than you will ever meet in your life. People wanting to raise capital for you. People want this. People want that. I mean, you're going to get dinged for 5 grand here, 10 grand. I mean, and we made a few mistakes. We've fallen into a few of those traps. We're pretty rigid now on anybody we do anything with.
But knowing that from the get-go.
Get out of the gate, though. You're young, you're impressionable, and people come with you with great ideas. But ideas are ideas, and you need somebody to actually implement them.
And on that, though, I will say one thing we didn't do as well as we could have is we didn't support those people that we were paying.
Yeah.
We theoretically thought we could pay them to do it, and they just figure it out.
And not get on top of them,
That's
not monitor.
Really good at.
And then back to what Justin said, too, is like talking, getting advice, right? So after a while at our business stage, we're growing, we're doing great. We're like, gosh, we need to get an advisory board in here because we have people pitching us all these great ideas all the time. But how about we get 8, 9 individuals in here that have done business forever, and they're all much older than us, twice our age, and they can say yes or no and kind of help us, guide us. So getting that implemented into the business was huge. Whereas if you're, starting out and you don't have at least a few people to be a sounding board, you're going to make decisions and buy things and sign up for services that all of a sudden are just going to bite you.
Yeah. To that note too, I mean, I think from the start, we put this plan together, put the business together, and, you know, by year 3 we were going to be worth, you know, $100 million. By year 5 we were going to be worth $300 million. I mean, you know, and well, those are, you know, some based on the numbers we put together. Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense. You know, we got these shiny, you know, targets in our head, and we started, you know, some of the, you know, reflecting some of the mistakes we've made or lessons we've learned. You know, you start operating in a way like, oh, we're a $10 million company already, or we're this already, and you start making decisions and investing and you know, making investments into things that necessarily aren't revenue drivers that a company that's worth that should do, but you shouldn't do yet. Like, focus on being a $100,000 company first, then focus on being a $1 million company, then focus on being a $10 million company.
That's the ethos you got to run by.
Yeah.
I also think none of us had ever worked together.
No.
So that also was something you should focus on, is figure out how to work together as a team, figure out how to, like, basically complement each other and do everything with not enough people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You got any questions? We've been talking around.
No, it's great, guys. This is that's when you know it's good. I mean, and that's huge. That's like that's we always say, you got to know your role kind of on the ice, but you got to know your role in the locker room too. I mean, you got to know where you're at, what you provide to complement your teammates, right? I mean, that's a crucial skill to have. And kind of what you guys talked about, which was neat, is we're not as deep into it as you guys are, but learning that there's a lot of sellers, and it all sounds really nice. And you get to it with a little bit of patience. You kind of get to people's their motivation, where they're coming from, and if you can kind of get to that point, if you know, obviously we want to move and grow and push, but if you just have a little bit of time, you can, if they're forcing it on you, or you get to sense their intent. And once you get your handle on that and start sensing that a little bit better, I think then you start getting better at who you're going to deal with, what you're looking for. I like where this person's coming from, their intent, their nature, their motivation. It's in line with ours. And then I think you can start to move in the right direction.
Find some of your own, you know, independent references for these people too. You know, if somebody's coming to you, you know, they're going to give you their success stories and their references, and they'll probably tell you the same 3 stories over and over again. So find a way around that. You know, look at their LinkedIn, look at their Facebook, look at their presence online, and reach out to someone that may not be in their reference sheet or whatever, their, you know, their pitch book or their case studies, and, you know, get some outside feedback, because we definitely avoided doing, you know, entering relationships with people based on some feedback we've gotten accordingly, and it's been some of the best decisions we've made, is some of the deals we haven't done. You know, you're so when you're younger too, and I mean this goes beyond to like a lot of like real estate deals I've done as well. It's you want everything now. You know what I mean? You're looking at all these guys doing developments or, you know, building businesses and this and that, and you know, it's like you think in 1 year you're going to be this multimillionaire, you know, whatever. And if there's one thing you need to know, it's patience and time. Like, time actually equalizes everything, and you don't need to chase it to have it this second. You know, let it run its course. Let organic growth happen rather than trying to force it. I mean, and as long as you can, use your own money, use your own internal stuff to grow the thing before you dilute yourself. And, you know, NoSweat's one thing, you know, you got to raise money for manufacturing and whatnot. Real estate is another area where it's like, I built up a portfolio raising other people's money out of the gate, and in doing that, I ultimately diluted myself down, and I'm doing just as much work on that as had I grown it organically, which I now kind of hit reset and did again. So it's just something where it's like, if you let it grow organically, have the patience to allow it to grow, make smart decisions, raise money when you need to, but don't try to force yourself into this huge something you're not before you have the time to actually season yourself in the role.
And on that, I'd say one thing we've heavily learned, I mean, so we're technically a product and a manufacturing company, which is quite a bit different than a service company. And like polar opposites as far as speed, time, and stuff goes. And I mean, we finally raised like $1.2 million after a long 14 months. And during that time, I mean, one big thing I personally learned was communication is essential for everything. And like at one point, I was like, basically, I was building manufacturing, you guys were doing operations and marketing and building that out in the office, and like we weren't even talking because we were in our own lanes, but like everyone just starts to assume things, and like it just, it's important.
That's what I was gonna say, because I mean, how important is that trust? Because you got to know the.
Oh, there's been multiple points in time we've lost complete faith. I mean, there was complete degeneration of everything.
It's all communication, though.
Like he said, it's complete lack of communication.
Right.
You know, he's doing one thing, we're doing another.
Right.
We're all wondering why the other isn't having the results, and you instead of just sitting down and talking through it and actually understanding what's going on, it's just you just start assuming.
Well, then you get pissed at somebody.
You get pissed, and those assumptions get worse, and you automatically jump to the worst case scenario. And there's a few
start
points.
Talking to each other, and then you just.
Because there's no way that if you're operating in different lanes, you don't communicate, and you try to hop in that lane, you can't keep up to the speed with that person. So no matter what, you're gonna already be like batting heads because like, yo, you shouldn't be doing this, but he's that lane's already way past you. Like,
Well, and I was at our manufacturing place.
I think you should dig into that, Justin.
Yeah, seriously, get in there.
So the process of how we got to.
Well, should we jump? Let's jump back into the timeline, probably.
Okay.
Because we're kind of telling these as we go. Yeah.
As clearly. Oh, one other thing before we get off that too is like. What I've learned is if you want to find new teammates, just do a dry run, a test run, be completely transparent, open, do like a 2-month trial, see if it works. If it doesn't work, tell them like no hard feelings.
If it doesn't work, go to Chipotle.
Yeah. Also,
you know what I mean?
There you go.
Set up everything performance and benchmarked in anything you do, especially in marketing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so manufacturing clearly has been the nightmare since I was 22.
Yeah. So I think we left off at. Justin and I were promoting it. You had just called us over. You know, me and my dad came in and kind of sat down. We're like, all right, we got to put this business plan together.
Where's the validity?
Right.
All that stuff.
Yeah. So we after a lot of late nights of working through building this private placement. I think this was mid 2015 at this point. Colin was still in California. I was still traveling 3-4 days a week with Deloitte. But Justin and I, and Colin too, but mainly Justin and I just started meeting with people in Minnesota to come on and invest. And I think we came out at like a $10 million valuation, which again was pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
Very aggressive.
But the messed up part about raising capital is it's easier to raise money without a product in theory than it is with traction and actual sales data.
It's better to be pre-market.
Pre-revenue, pre-market. You're pitching a better idea, vision. Idea is as soon as you start generating revenue or actual traction or sales, now people want to give you a multiplier on your sales. I mean, we've all seen Shark Tank, which is absurd, which, by the way, has just crushed like the angel investment area or valuations because it's like, oh yeah, you need $100,000 in sales. And you're saying you're worth $1 million. Like, yeah, well, you're not all Mark Cuban or Kevin O'Leary either. You're not going to bring the same value. But again, angel investment obviously comes with a different degree of investor than someone that so they're using that probably as their benchmark. So anyway, we went out and started raising money. I think we were setting out to raise I think $2 million or something like that initially, and we ended up scaling it back to closer to $1 million. And this was, like I said, mid-2015, still at Deloitte, and we're pitching people, and one of the questions that kept coming up is like, well, who's running the business or who's doing what? And I'm like, well, Justin's doing it, and at some point I might leave my job to come do it, and instantly all my credibility and my pitch goes out the door, right? So, I think it was November of 15, Justin calls me up. I remember sitting in my hotel room, he was like, hey, like, if I can work something out with like my father-in-law where you can do like some consulting for him or something like that, on the side, and you can at least have like a minimal salary, you think you just quit Deloitte? I like laugh. I'm like, you're crazy, man. No way.
Yeah. Well, it's solving a problem. How do I get John to quit his job right now? I'm like, all right, I'm going to go see if my father-in-law will, for some reason, after seeing me do all this stuff, basically be willing to pay John $30,000 to cover him for 4 months if he needs it.
And that was the pitch, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, I got this great job at Deloitte, but I also
you kind of see the
I'm
vision.
working hard and not working. I also kind of on the side was building up a real estate portfolio. I'm like, I can dabble there too, and then I toyed with it back and forth, and I'm like, God, I don't know if I can. Even everybody I work with at Deloitte, like my manager's one of my best friends, right? Like everybody's seen me through, so I was just like, I don't know. And
so I gave him a parachute.
Yeah. So he got a stepdad to agree, or your father-in-law to agree. And I finally just was like, all right, you know what? Screw it. I'm pretty much. I'm 26 at the time. I think 27. And I was like, you know what? I got some money. Whatever. I can always come back to this, right? And in my head, I'm like, make sure I leave on good terms, everything else. But I have a skill set I've built. I know I'm successful in this role here. There's a lot of people at this company in this role. It's not like I'm bailing on a project or anything. Right. So I'm not leaving anybody hanging. So stepping back in won't be the impossible. So, I worked up my courage, talked to my buddy who worked there. He's like, really? interesting. Sweat liners, huh? And, you know, yeah, I'm doing it.
Sweat liners, that makes sense.
Yeah, I had
You're a
had
smart guy. You figure something out.
Yeah. But, you know, it was, I shit you not, one of the hardest things was coming up with, you know, I'd been with this company for 5 years, built a lot of relationships there, coming up and telling them, yeah, I'm leaving what's considered one of the best places to launch a career to go, you know, start some hair, you know, what everyone thought was just this stupid idea, right? Like, yeah, it's your little NoSweat thing. That's cute, you know? Yeah. And pulled the trigger early 16, and right away we got some investments coming in. You know, I was like, all right, there's some conviction.
We couldn't raise money unless you jumped.
Yeah.
Was kind of what it came down to. So I was like, all right, how can I somehow convince you?
But making that jump, I think, literally, that's what, you know, a lot of people we've been talking to, like, wow, you just left Deloitte to come do it. All right, yeah, screw it. We believe in you guys.
Honestly, is that the best decision you've ever made in your whole life?
Oh, I would trade it for nothing. I mean, between this and other business ventures and everything else, just open up my mind. I mean, suddenly I'm hungry again, right? Yeah. That steady paycheck of $5,000, you know, whatever it was, probably, you know, $10,000 a month or whatever it might be I was earning is like, well, now that's not there. So what do I do? Because I like living my lifestyle. I like partying. I like having fun. I don't like, you know, eating ramen or, you know, whatever you do when you don't have money. But I'm like, all right.
What I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah, so I left to go do that. No, but you get so hungry. Suddenly you see opportunities everywhere, and like, you know, you got to be like deliberate in staying focused because you can get lost and chasing 10 different opportunities. But we raised some money, got it going. Justin and I started, you know, setting under the path to figure out how we do new manufacturing. Went back to the same company, and they said, yeah, we don't want to do another run for you, but we'll build you a machine for $2.5 million. Oh, thanks.
And it's like we were going to the right place that every big company
and that was
gets their machines built.
That was what the business plan was made for.
Yeah.
That's what we said we were doing. That's what we needed to do, and then we're like,
to get that machine.
Yeah.
We needed that machine, that one machine. That's what we needed.
Disposable, low-cost item is probably the biggest pain in the ass to make in retrospect.
Right.
And, like, I mean, theoretically knew how to, you know, not make the same mistake, and, you know, would buy the machine, but like there was so many unknowns, and having never actually done it right once, it was like there's got to be another way to do it.
Yeah, the risk of building that machine is unmeasurable. I mean, it's like it was one single purpose machine. There's no versatility to it or anything else. So essentially we had to, and by we I mean primarily Justin, had to build out an entire new manufacturing process from scratch.
Because we asked every single person in the entire industry, and no one's. I'm like, isn't there like a smaller, flexible, plug and play, slower deal?
We were googling like disposable non-woven experts, adhesive experts. I mean, you know, looking around. I mean, we were talking to some of the smartest adhesive people in the country, and they're like, yeah, we can do it for you. And every time we come back, it'd be like, yeah, it's going to cost us $1 each to make one of these, right? It just wasn't feasible.
Cost $1.
Yeah, like well, our model doesn't work. We can't charge $10 for a 3-pack, you know. Yeah. So, I think one of the cool, funnier stories was we finally found a piece of equipment that we thought could do what we wanted it to. So Justin and I booked one.
Time out.
Yeah.
So we took the normal process, turned it into 2 components or 2 phases, and found a way to basically build our own contraption for way less money and you know, way less risk, because we could kind of procure things along the way.
Right. So we were Googling pieces of heavy machinery that we'd never even heard of, right? And we're neither one of us is an expert in this other than what we've taught ourselves or researched. Now, I mean, it's a different story, but but I mean, I'm on like used equipment manufacturing sites, like, oh, this looks like an idea. Maybe we could get them to sell just this one piece or just that or whatever. And I think the crux of it, we'd piece together most of it, but like, you know, time seemed to always be against us. We were always in such a hurry for multiple reasons. One, we had investor money. Two, we had, you know, we weren't making money, right? And we didn't even have a huge burn rate, but it was like we weren't making money. So every month that we have to wait, it's that much longer to launch, that much longer, and you got the pressure from your family, from friends saying, oh, this thing's never going to happen. Yeah, it's just a pipe dream, da-da-da. So you're racing against this invisible clock the entire time. So we found this machine in Pennsylvania, and Justin and I booked one-way tickets out to Pennsylvania, rented a U-Haul, spent about 12 hours strapping it down to the U-Haul.
Time out. Took a lot of pictures and videos because we had to put the thing back together. Oh my.
Spent like 12 hours strapping this thing down, and of course I'm just like, God, dude, we gotta go. Justin's like, no, this is my entire life for strapping this thing down.
No, we're putting on 10 extra straps on every.
So I'm sitting here, this is complete overkill. He's like, this isn't secure enough. So by the time the thing's bolted down to this machine, we're about ready to kill each other, and now we've got a 36-hour drive ahead of us in a U-Haul with flat backs, no radio. And I remember I had my Bose dock sitting in this U-Haul playing music for us as we're just yelling at each other.
How slow is that drive home?
Oh my God.
We were about to kill each other.
Yeah.
It was always like one of those science projects where you get it was throw the egg carton off the bridge.
Yeah.
You guys were probably so dialed in with that thing, you could have just rolled off the curb, like, machine's fine, it's strapped in back there, we're good.
Pretty much. Yeah.
To pull back a little bit, just kind of like on time frame wise. So I think when they made that trip, I had been back for like 3 months,
Well,
2 or 3
time
months.
out. You just called us and we're like, "Yep, I left."
Well, I remember that.
You didn't tell us.
I
You're
knew-
like, I want to drive it back.
Well,
I'm like, what?
John knew. I mean, you probably knew as well. But
I'm just-
that was the end of my like fiscal year at Medtronic, and so I kind of once John left, we were obviously all been talking that I was gonna try to leave.
Well, and you
come
had a
back.
great job there too.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I was the youngest guy in my position in the country, and it was a great company. I was President's Club. I did pretty much everything you could do in a pretty quick amount of time. So the hardest part, obviously, is saying bye to all your customers, all the doctors that you spent,
And cash.
and money.
Well, what drove you to be like, all right, well, I'm going to leave this cushy job that I've nurtured for the last 4 years. I'm making bank. I'm going to come
Definitely.
back home to Minnesota, leave California to go and not pay myself for a year or two.
Too long.
Whatever.
Yeah. It was multiple factors. One thing was, the success with the first job. I was kind of just riding that, line up, like just doing better each year, better each year, better each year. And so I was like, well, this is my next step to continue to better myself. Maybe not fiscally right away, but if I can continue to grow and, I can sell anything. I've been selling these stents to doctors who are 3 times older than me, and they trust me enough to use my product. So obviously I'm good at what I do. So I got back, and I thought we were much closer to this manufacturing of, getting
So did we.
mass. We all did, I guess. But that was the hardest part for me, is getting back and kind of having to like ease off the gas of like selling, because it was more like maintaining. There's nothing to sell. So like I'd spend hours in the back helping guys seal the product, doing just blunt things, because that's what the business needed. And so I'm a multi-tool player. I can kind of do whatever's needed. I'm not stuck.
This, mind you, is where we kind of probably hit our darkest times
Well,
at each other's throats.
I mean, So at some point, I just realized if we don't have a product, we're screwed. So I kind of screwed up and stopped communicating with you guys. You were in the office, keeping things going.
Yep.
I'm like, John, I need to buy this $40,000 thing, this $20,000 thing.
We're just seeing money. We're just seeing money go out the door.
And
I
like,
what?
With theoretically no background, and like, I mean, I was at our now manufacturing partner. I was there on Christmas Eve. Like, that's how many hours we were putting in to like
they
just
let us stay
build
late
as fast as possible.
I mean, we had endless just artificial deadlines we created for each other, for ourselves almost. I mean, it was this pressure. In hindsight, it's like we were. It goes back to that being in such a hurry, right?
We were burning cash though. Like, we were burning $40,000 a month
again,
easy.
and we had scaled up probably before we were ready, right?
Exactly.
We tried to be too big, and we're like, all right, we got a manufacturing place, let's get all these things moving, and we put them in motion and pulled the trigger before we actually had them. So it's like, all right, now we created a burn rate we didn't have before.
Let's get a marketing
company
that
we can't even
on
sell it
retainer
with.
for 6 months.
And it was kind of
product.
and raising capital was like a 1-2 punch too. So John left. John's connections were like, all right, I'll invest. I left. My connections were like, oh, Colin's like, I'm gonna invest in this too. So there's like, you brought all this money in.
There's nothing.
We were
And
like,
now we have no
ready to-
catalyst. It's
Yeah.
it's these we created these overly aggressive timelines for ourselves in our pitch, and everybody's like, well, it's happening. Well, we don't have manufacturing yet. And then so you're looking, and at the same time you're running out of money, and you're trying to raise money, but you're raising money without a story, right?
Or
you're
the
like,
same story.
the same story you've been
told
telling
them
for 6 months.
Yeah.
Over
So
the 6 meetings and nothing's changed.
yeah,
The story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, and that is so. Where do you find the balance then as a young company like you guys are? Because you don't want to wallow or just kind of not have these deadlines. Were you too aggressive, or is it good to be like, ugh, or I mean, how does that? I mean, that's you got to have that balance, right? But that's hard.
Yeah.
How do you know?
Some things are out of your control.
Yeah, but I think
And some are hugely out of your control, and knowing that is important.
But I think being as conservative as you can for as long as you can while operating within the startup environment, which isn't conservative at all, is one of the smarter things you can do, and one of the biggest lessons we learned. I'll say it 10 times before this thing's over, but we were trying to be a $10, $20 million company before we were $1 million company. And, I don't regret anything we've done along the way. I think, all three of us would agree that we have, this going through this over the last 2-3 years is 100 times more invaluable than any MBA or education or anything or any job could have taught us. Why? Because as different as we all are, I'm more finance, kind of high-level sales pitchy oriented. Justin's very engineering oriented. Colin's very sales oriented. we all had to participate in every aspect of this business. Financial modeling, manufacturing, sourcing, packaging, grunt work. I mean, fulfillment, shipping, technology. I mean, I could go on, this list. I could give you 100 items that are a piece of this business that if you're working for Deloitte, well, admin takes care of that. Tech's in place. You got SAP, you got NetSuite, you got
HR
all these,
does
you got all these technology, HR, hiring people,
firing.
Any one of these aspects that go into running a business that if you step into an existing business just kind of take care of themselves, suddenly you got to figure it out. I mean, sales tax, I mean, just anything you could imagine, you suddenly have to just self-educate.
Right.
And that's the other thing that I'd harp on is one of the biggest things you can do is just figure stuff out yourself. A lot of people have a tendency. I'll be like, hey, even today, like with employees or whoever, be like, hey, go do this. I don't know how to do that.
Google.
Then fucking Google.
Yeah,
seriously.
Or try it and adapt.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is like someone will come ask me a question and be like, hey, what do you think about this or how do I do it? And for a while, I just sit there with them sitting there and I just type it into Google because I truly didn't know. I was going to go read some opinions. So what I started doing is somebody asked me, there's this little website, it's called Let Me Google This For You. Yeah. And what it is you go to letmegooglethisforyou.com and you type in the question and click it, and then it creates a link. And you send that link to them back in an email or however they ask you. They click it and it literally creates a little animation on their screen. Someone's mouse goes up, it goes to google.com, it types it in, and clicks it, and says, see, was that so hard? But it's funny, but it's so true because coming into this, none of us knew any of it.
Right.
So you have two ways to figure it out. One, ask somebody who knows. Two, you have the internet at your fingertips. This isn't 20 years ago. Like every answer you possibly need is out there for you to get. There's forums, there's blogs. Go read completely different opinions about it. Don't just find your self-validating opinion. Go find the opposite opinion, read that, and then argue against that. Go find your devil's advocate so that you're not just self-fulfilling yourself into your decision, right? Yeah, exactly. So,
well, I mean, this kind of dives into the Diamond Series early, but I want to know why did you guys all want to do this? Like, it's a very simple question, but I know it's a very complex answer that hopefully you guys we can see if we figure that one out. But there has to be a bigger driven purpose to what made you guys all continuously do this. Because that fear and the stories and all that stuff, but you're still here hanging, and now you're going this way. But, like, why did you guys believe in the product? Like, why did you believe that this was the right answer?
Well, why don't you start and then we'll come down?
It's adapted over time, I'd say. But, like, I mean, the passion to succeed at something you believe in so much, I think, is what drives you. Straight up. Like, pretty simple. And like, you control your destiny, which not many people do on a daily basis. And like, between the two of those, it's just like, yeah, I would probably go hang out. Like, most of my college roommates are just like, where have you been? It's like, I probably take 2 weeks off and go out like 5 weekends a year for 6 years straight. I didn't do anything. Luckily, I've found the best wife in the world that let me do this. I don't know why. I couldn't have done it without her. But no, it's just if you believe you can do it and it drives you.
If you dream it, you can do it. For me, I mean, out of the gate, just about me in general, I'm inherently lazy. I want to find the shortest path to any result.
By paying people.
whatever it takes. I mean, but inherently lazy, and that goes back in terrible examples. But I'd buy homework in school. I mean, I'd do anything. Like whatever I could.
He pays his sister to do his laundry.
Legit. I mean, it's absurd at some degrees. But I look at it. I look at my outlook as being very economical. Right. Everything to me is an opportunity cost or a trade off. And how do you find the shortest path to get the desired result without harming anybody in the way? Right. And for me, when I was working in the corporate world, I did the same thing, and I did it without even knowing it, right? I knew that if I did just enough, I'd get my promotion, I'd get my bonus, and that'd be it. And so I was working hard and not working. Right. And I started to recognize that, because I was like, I just wasn't satisfied with what I was doing. Good self-awareness. Yeah, I wasn't satisfied with what I was doing. I realized that no matter how hard I tried, I was still capped at what the outcome would be based on time, which I'm inherently impatient too, which something you got to be aware of and fight against. But so for me, initially, it was like, all right, I now have the opportunity to, like he said, create your own destiny. I think that's evolved over time. Out of the gate, it was like, all right, we're going to build this thing up and be millionaires in 2 years. And it's going to be huge. We're going to sell off and be heroes and start up, and we'll be on the cover of Forbes and everything else. Whatever it goes through your head as a 26-year-old, leaving your job to come into run a sweat startup
It's
company.
a very romantic look.
Exactly.
Very romantic.
Yeah, and then you get into the reality of it a year later, and you're like, holy shit, we're out of money.
I'm tired.
I'm
pissed.
I've raised $1.5 million from friends and family and told them I was going to do this, and now what the hell are we going to do? So
reputation.
Yeah,
reputation ended up becoming, I think, the biggest. And reputation and commitment, right? Yeah. For me, in my mind, it's like everything, if I'm going to take money from somebody and they're going to trust me to put that to work and work, use it and deliver results, we didn't want signing personal guarantees on this stuff or anything, but in my mind, I'm personally guaranteeing that. If for whatever reason this doesn't go and I have to go work and get money elsewhere, I'm going to pay back these investors one way or another. I'm not going to let them sit here and lose on one deal while another wins. So, ultimately what gets you through those darker times is that commitment to just delivering what you said you were going to do. And that ultimately drove me, through the times where people are like, why the hell haven't you just punted this thing and moved on, So,
that's good. I mean, career-wise for me, it was I like anyone likes to win, right? So in med device, medical landscape's always changing. Sometimes your bigger hospitals, the bigger conglomerates or IDNs, they're called. There are people that make the decision on what devices get bought at that hospital. It's not about always about the data or if the doctors, if the staff, and you're supporting all of them. If they like you, you can still lose all that business overnight because of contracting. And so I was, one of the reps inside all these hospitals, but I could lose a contract and all my work would be gone. Yeah. So I'm like, so wait, am I servicing? Am I selling? What am I really doing then? So I was like the control of my destiny. So I was like, I need to get back into something where I can control everything.
You almost feel disposable.
Yeah. So with this, it's like, well, I'm the one in the deal making the decision. Yeah. I can start, working directly with people, and if I lose it, it's because I lost it, not because someone else lost it for me. Right. So more of like an individual sport against a team sport. I mean, baseball, you can go 4 for 4, and your team can still lose, but you're part of that team. Right. So that's just the way it is. Where in golf, if you shoot the best score, you're gonna win. Yeah, that's true. But so that was that, and then all my family's back home. I was dating a girl back home that's not my wife, and she's amazing as well. Being able to do some of this entrepreneurial stuff and not be daddy Warbucks right now, and just kind of grind it out and see it to fruition is really what it is. Yeah. And you live and die with your successes and failures. So it's seeing the success. 2 weeks ago we were on CNBC. TJ Oshie brought us up. We're like, wow, that's really cool. Would I be on? Would they be talking about me on CNBC if I was at Medtronic? No, they'd be talking about the company. So like we've done stuff that's cool, and yeah, that was just it. I wanted to be recognized for my hard work, and not just be another minion in a company. So that's awesome.
Well, and it's nice to take a second and reflect here. I'm sure, I mean, it's neat. Like it's like you can. I mean, you said there are times where you got to sit back and like, holy buckets, this has been 10 years. 10 years, man. And you can get so we're so engineered to sort of think negatively, right? And like, nah. So you're like, oh, we could have done this, or we could be up here. But then it's also good to be like, you know what? We have put in a bunch of work, man. Look where it's grown. This does feel good. Like I'm enjoying this. It's important because we can all kind of get down on ourselves a little bit, or just be like, kind of just get stinky thinking about it a little bit. But it's nice to just be like, all right, that's so. Hey, this journey has been long and arduous, but man, is it fulfilling. Yeah. And that's just the neatest part of it. It's like you guys have created it. You have the ownership in it, and that's what ultimately fills you up.
Yeah.
We'll take them down to first.
Well, so yeah, we'll take you down to first base, and that's, as I said, kind of our standard base. Going off on how you do it. I mean, these are the things the values that have been instilled in you, practice, the things that fuel your decisions. Obviously, we have, a stimulus and then a reaction, and, in between there is our choice. And so, obviously within the company scheme and individually, kind of the standards that have been set at this company, this is how we're going to do it. These are the kind of the things we key in on to make sure that we're efficient and we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I'd say for the most part, one of the biggest things that I've learned is like your word means more than anything, and just if you say you're gonna do something, do it, or try your best. I think some of the biggest value things I feel like we've learned is like 90% is good enough. Crawl before you ball, and start now and figure it out as you go. those are fundamentally what's allowed us to, I think, do a lot really quick here, and getting some more teammates that, you know, help us validate the product.
Yeah.
Jared Robbins, who came in and helped us with a lot of the.
Yeah, that's another one of our executives. We didn't kind of finish the timeline, I guess. I don't want to diverge, but you know, we got in March of 2017 finally established the scalable manufacturing process. So now it's all streamlined. Things are, you know, we can make this thing.
Got 4 products.
Four products. So no longer a hockey company. You know, we've got hat liners, helmet liners, hard hat liners, visor liners. You know, Jared helped us substantially in kind of broadening beyond just Minnesota and getting some broader awareness. He brought in a majority of the professional athletes that we now have as endorsees, and most of them invested, which was pretty neat too. So, you know, just run down that quick. We got Oshie in hockey. We got Dallas Keuchel, who just won the World Series. We got Matt Adams, who's been, you know, recently hitting crazy home runs. We got Golden Tate, Brandon McManus, kicker for the Broncos. More recently, Stuart Sink and Scott Langley on the PGA Tour. One other, Carrie Fairman in tennis. She's a big tennis host. You know, does this big talk tennis show, very well connected in the tennis world. And then in about a week here, and we'll just say it now, and hopefully this airs after we announce it, but we secured a licensing deal with the PGA Tour. So now we're going to be an officially licensed product of the PGA. Got the logo, got the connections.
It's our best-selling product.
Golf. Golf ended up emerging as one of the best sellers. Yeah.
Everyone wears a hat.
We've all been there. Everybody wears a hat, man. Everyone's got the wicked tan line. You know, you're a younger golfer, you've been dealing with a little acne. You know, we got this dripping down. I don't want that when I'm over a putt. Right?
Or you buy a cool hat like at the Ryder Cup for $40, $50, whatever they charge you there.
You sweat it out.
And you're like,
I don't want to sweat that thing out.
I mean, you remember when you were a kid, right?
Yeah, man, these hats are ruined.
You have a few hats, you're like, oh, those are my going out looking good hats at the bowling alley this weekend. I can't wear those to baseball practice, you know, because you got to keep them fresh. So for the hat connoisseur, our hat liners just awesome.
Yeah, so March 17, we got the manufacturing in place. We've seen quarter-over-quarter growth, at least 50% or greater every quarter since then. We've got these athletes in place, and, you know, even then we still hadn't completely learned our lesson about, you know, crawling before we ball. And, you know, earlier this year, kind of ran into a tight position where we were kind of banking on, you know, landing some big box orders. You know, our entire model revolved around, or big investments or whatever, one or the other. And, you know, the investments were tied to getting these big box orders. And, you know, we realized ultimately, now looking back on it, that was out of our control. And we put too much of our model around something that was out of our control, and we were spending to support that. We were pushing the marketing, you know, doing this and that, and got into another tight position that, you know, we kind of, I think at this point we're probably a little bit more self-aware and probably in the best place we've been as a company to date. You know, earlier this year we kind of hit pause, sat down and said, look, we're here. We've got a valid, you know, 4 products. We've got some of the best endorsement deals I think most companies even come by, and we haven't had to pay for them. I mean, we've given these guys stock options. They've invested. You know, what are we doing wrong here? What do we need to change? And that's where we kind of hit reset, and we're like, all right, let's take our operations. Let's scale them back, and let's run this thing like a business. Let's not run it like a startup that's going to do $10 million next year, right? Let's look at the P&L. Let's actually run the financials, and let's break even. Let's show that we can actually cash flow this thing.
Says our CFO.
Yeah,
we got it finally.
Right? Yeah. I finally, you know, got it. Yeah.
We should maybe keep this ship floating.
No, but
you know, process.
You ultimately become so reliant as a startup on new investment funds that you forget that, like, hey, this could actually run as a profitable business and stand alone, and that's what we did. So March, we kind of shifted our entire focus, and for the last 3 months, granted we've scaled back operations, haven't been doing big marketing stuff, but we focus more on organic PR, which quite frankly has brought us a lot more publicity than this.
I was going to ask, because a lot of that's real sexy. That's sexy. And
that's,
you know, it's like,
doesn't cost you anything. You know, it's all about learning how to work these channels in the right way. I mean, I got to give a lot of credit to Jared. He's really he's gotten us into the Forbes, into Inc., and he's hounded these athletes and these reporters and whatnot to get us these, you know, free press. I mean, what you start to realize is these writers and everyone, they got to tell stories too. They
have to.
You guys got to have a podcast show, right? You need interesting stories.
Nice, cool,
exactly, right? So it's not that hard if you have a cool story to get it out there. You just need to position it in a way that they can take it
and use what you got.
Yep.
To move versus what you hope to have.
Yep.
And like we have athletes and investments.
Yeah.
And
so for
business.
The last 3 months we shifted from, you know, a burn rate of 60 to 100 grand plus per month to being cash flow positive, break even.
Wow. Hey.
You know, we closed a round to kind of settle up any debts we had. And now we're
That's got to feel good.
Now we're in a position where it's like, okay, we have a clean slate. You know, the balance sheet's clean. The cap table's looking good. You know, and we've got actual sales to stand on month over month. We've got all these endorsement deals. We've got some big announcements coming up over the next couple weeks. I mean, it's going to be like week after week after week of announcement. And now we can actually come to the table and do a round that stands on our own 2 feet rather than pitching hypothetical hockey sticks down the road. Yep. So we're not working on the hypotheticals anymore. We've got some actual. You can touch this.
Yep, tangible.
God, that feels good.
But back to the question, it was what drives you, right?
Standards, baby.
Standards. What are your standards?
For Johnny.
I think sticking to your commitments. You know, it's the biggest thing. Ultimately, if you raise money, you have a responsibility to see it through, not just bail when things get tough.
Yep. Or you tell someone, "I will give you this if you help us out with this." You got to follow through.
Yep.
Like, and that's
the few things that I always live by is, especially when I was selling medical devices, and same in any business, in any scope, but if you don't know the answer, tell them you don't know the answer, and then find it out, and then tell them it later, because if I'm going to lie to you about my product or about something, and then you find out the right answer and it was not what I told you, they're not going to respect you. And how are you going to get their respect back?
That honesty is huge.
Be genuine.
Be genuine.
People can smell bullshit a mile away.
They'll see where you're coming from, your intent. We're like, where's you come? Like, what's the motivation behind this? And you come with that honesty. Hey, man.
Yeah.
I'm authentic. Yep. I'm here. What you see is what you get. This is what I'm trying to do. Anywhere otherwise, as you guys all know.
Well, it's even it's kind of too like people buy from who they know, right? Like if they feel you, if they trust you, you know they're gonna buy from you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's that authentic piece.
Yeah.
If I know you and I like you, heck, all right, I'll buy.
Yeah, you can have the sale closed before you walk in the door if you have the right connection for stuff. And so, you know, if in the sales world, build those connections before you need to make the sale, right? Network with people. Like if you look at like how you evolve as like someone who sells or pitches or whatever, you want to work around as you build yourself as a business professional or whatever it may be. And I'll just talk straight to business, but build your network with people, become friends with people in good places that have success, that have different walks of life, different businesses. And develop them without an end goal in mind, right? Because and the more you can do that, the broader you can do that. When you do have something that you need them for or whatever,
it makes sense.
It makes sense. It's collaborative. It's beneficial to them. It's beneficial to you.
And they can trust you.
Instead of waiting until you need something and then you're selling. Yeah, you're going.
You reek of desperation.
Exactly. And that comes with time. And but start early. Start when you're young. Start building these networks.
That's a skill that you don't even need. It shouldn't even be that, and you should just treat people like that.
Right. Yeah.
So that throughout your life you're living the right way.
Yep.
So that when you actually might need something or call on somebody, they know where you're coming from because you've lived with integrity and you've treated people the correct way, and they know that you're a nice guy instead of this guy was a douche and now he's coming to me, Mr. Nice Guy. Like, I ain't buying.
Put yourself in positions to get outside your initial friend bubble too, because a lot of times you'll fall in this thing and it's like you got all your drinking buddies, your bar buddies, and everything else, and you know what? Those aren't going to be the ones that are getting you to the next level in business, right? Like, go have fun with these people, but step out of your immediate friend zone. Go, hang out with your parents' friends for a night. Do whatever it may be. Like,
surround yourself with the people you want to be like.
Or the skill sets that you adore and want to like kind of follow.
Join a stupid networking club or whatever. I mean, they're so dumb, but at the same time, you're just going to meet people. You're going to branch out, and you're going to meet them. You're going to meet their friends. You're going to work through it, and before you know it, you have this network of business professionals that know you, trust you, they appreciate what you're doing, and you know what? You've never asked them for anything. You've just been their friend. So when you do need something or there is somewhere to collaborate, they're already there. Right. You're not pitching. And
it's like it's a numbers game too. You have enough interactions. One of those is going to come back to serve you, or you can serve them. Right? Like you sit there in your little comfort bubble. Well, then you might not. You're not giving yourself the numbers. You're not giving yourself the chance. You're not increasing your chances of a possible deal or interaction or something that could benefit both you. Along the lines of that, which that's really good to hear.
And then I guess just the last note on first base and what we kind of like try to work by, but keep the ball in their court. So when there's communication, when there's action, make sure you get it done and you get it to them in a timely manner.
Control the narrative.
If you sit on it for a week, honestly, like if I'm talking back and forth with someone else and there's a pause, then a week and a half later they finally respond, you leave that person kind of like ghost on them a little bit, and you break that smooth communication process, which is just it's hard to work with people like that. Honestly, it really is. You send an email and you don't hear back in 2 weeks, and the process just gets
It's gotta be tough as a sales guy.
Very tough.
Just kidding.
Especially when you're like trying to email with buyers or clients,
seriously,
and
you got so
like
many
you get
people.
the ball rolling and it just stops, and you're like, "Oh, I thought we were gonna get a PO this month, but all of a sudden, guys on vacation for 2 weeks never let me know." So.
Well, and that kind of goes into a little piece, I think, of society these days where we all have phones, we all have emails, and it's just a lot. You're constantly being inundated with all of this shit, and it's easy to just be like, ugh, I'm not doing this, I'm not going to answer that text. Or, I mean, it's tough. It's that balance, right? Like, you got a lot of people trying to grab you. You're a lot more available, right?
Yeah.
And so it does make it easy to just kind of be like, ugh. I already, replied to 5 of those emails. Like, I'll get to those other ones tomorrow. And it's tough to have that balance of, like, constantly, and then also being like, all right, I'm done for the day.
Yeah, you gotta learn to filter out the noise, though. Don't respond to every marketer, every single person that reaches out to you. Just shut stuff down quick. Don't you're gonna get hit up by every cold calling person and email or on LinkedIn and email and whatever else, and you just gotta just stay focused. Determine what you're gonna focus on, stay focused, and then pivot when you need to, but on your terms, not because you saw the next shiny object.
Right.
Well, let's take it into second base then, and that's our systems. We like to use the term systems, and a lot of times with people or athletes or things like that, it's just sort of the habits and rituals you guys have created as individuals within the business. It's sort of the boxes you got to check off to make sure that the standards and purpose is clear in you, and whether that's eating the right way, waking up at a certain time of the day. Just think, the certain habits, and again, it's pretty simple. The habits and rituals, even unbeknownst to you, sit there and think about it, be like, all right, well, yeah, I do this. I got to do this each day to make sure that I'm like efficient. I'm doing what I have to do. It's a lot easier as, when you talk to athletes, they have the, but I think it's important for us all to have a set of things that we have in place to make us feel good and efficient. So again, kind of going down, on a day-to-day basis, or what, this could be individually or as a company. What are some of the things that we have in our system in place?
I don't know. I think one of the things I always just try to do is always see the glass half full, to be honest, and focus on solving problems and not talking about issues, and trying to encourage everyone on the team. It's been one of those things I've been just trying to do nonstop, to the point where Colin prohibits me from saying great work.
Yeah, same compliment every day. Great work. Yeah, that's one of your systems. You do say great work a lot.
I'm just trying to be. And like, I don't know why, but I don't even remember who said it in what book, but I think like the funniest quote that's like really true for startups is, if you're gonna eat shit, don't nibble.
Eat that whole thing.
Yeah, it's like you're gonna fail, but you gotta just get through it and figure out how to make things right.
Yeah, I think the other thing is surround yourself with like a good support system. If you're in the entrepreneurial world, I mean, there's countless articles about how it can be one of the most depressing places to be, right? And you go through some of the toughest times that most people in their life don't have to encounter. They're clocking, checking in and clocking, and you need, I joke half the time, but it's like sometimes you feel like chief therapist officer, right? You need to let people vent. You need people you can vent to that'll hear you out. You're not going to solve the problem there, but you're going to be frustrated, and you just need to be able to get it out. And you need to be able to get out outside of your business environment. I don't care if it's your dad, your brother, your sister, your good friend, whatever. Because I mean, there's been times where it's like
Uber driver.
Yeah, whatever. But there's been times where it's like I don't even know what I'm doing here. And they're like, listen, take a step back. Like, you're fine. Like, you can get through this. This isn't the end of the world. You feel like the weight of the world's on your shoulders, and it's really not. And you need to remind yourself of that, and a part of that too is, don't be afraid to get out and have some fun too. Like, you're gonna, when you're in a startup environment, I don't care what you're doing, there's always more work. There will always be something you can do more. So don't burn yourself out, and I'm probably too far on one side, but go out and have some fun. Go take some trips, party, do whatever. But like, as long as it doesn't cause you to lose your focus internally, don't be afraid to step out a little bit and just shut down and have some fun.
Yeah.
So.
Especially when you're kind of running ship. Justin and I the most in the office. For me, it's always important every day to go around and be like, hey, things good? Hey, you got enough on your plate today to stay busy? Hey, do you need help back here with anything? So I kind of pop my head around just to make sure that everyone's, doing something productive, and if they are feeling like they're underwater, kind of helping them
have a chance to communicate.
Even if it's 15, 20 minutes, like everyone's got 15, 20 minutes during the workday. I don't care who you are, to help someone out, because we have employees, and they can leave if they want to, and find someone that can replace them to educate them and get them in, then I'm not doing my job.
Right.
Sure.
And so that's being able to do that, and obviously in a startup, it's different. You have to do all the jobs, but just treating everyone with respect always, and that's kind of my system every day, is just to hopefully make sure everyone's happy and everyone's having fun at this too.
Love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And it's
I'm excited to hear the.
well, it's simple. There's a beauty in that simplicity, and it makes things most efficient.
Right.
And that takes us around to third base, that's our vision, that's our carrot out front. We do all of these things to ultimately, and that can be, again, within the vision of the company, and then individually, we don't even have to, I want to do this, or we can talk. You can talk family, or where we want to see ourselves. I mean, it's that excitement that keeps us going, right? That's why you guys are all doing this. So when you get to third base, that's kind of our vision base, and that's some of our goals out there. That's where we want to get. It's that excitement. So,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. One of the things that excites me is making a lot of money. That's one of the things that drives me. Another thing is making a lot of money when I'm young, so I can enjoy it with my family.
Amen.
And that's kind of been the two overarching drivers for me. And not having responsibilities straight out of college. It's just pairing all that together with something I believe can work, and then trying to surround myself with the right people to execute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I mean, along those lines, it just comes down to freedom, right? Freedom and kind of controlling your own destiny. Everybody's kind of driven by different things, right? And, some people I've seen in the business world where it's just more and more and more money, more power, and you just never really have that end in sight. For me, I want that. I want a lot of money, like Justin said. I want to be rich. I want to be able to do what I want. But I want that to have the freedom to make my decisions in a money-free environment, right? If I want to go take this trip, I'm not asking how much it costs. I'm asking what's the value of doing this. If I want to spend time with people, I can do that. If I want to go start another business or build it, I have the credibility of having a successful startup. I have the funds to be able to fund it. I have the money to be able to live independently and do this and that. So I think for me, the money is great, and it's I want a lot of it, and I want to be able to do that, but it's ultimately driving the freedom of my life. And so people say, money doesn't make you happy. No way. But money can get you the freedom to get yourself in a mental place where you can actually now operate the way you want to without money being a constrainer.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I could copy exactly what John said, because that's kind of where my mind's at as well. Being able to tie your name to something that is successful is always cool. So if, say we sell in 3 years, and then we're still young guys. We're still in our early 30s. So not going back bases, but that's another thing. If you can kind of get some experience and do it early, you still got a lot of time to, hey, if it didn't work even, you still learn so much, and your 30s or late 20s, you go back to get another job or whatever. But being able to tie the name, and being like, hey, that Colin, he was one of the guys that did that NoSweat thing. Especially in the Midwest, the startup community is just a little different. Recent up here is Sports Engine. So the two guys that did Sports Engine, they sold it to NBC for whatever, $200 million or whatever. But those guys are mid 30s, and they're those are those guys. So kind of being able to tie NoSweat to, that was me and my business friends, and we found a way and we did it. And then I'm similar to John. I love golfing, traveling, and sure, you can make all your money doing other different things, but having the freedom too. When you have a normal job making good money for a corporation, you're still tied to the corporation. Whereas here for us, we can be a little bit more flexible as long as shit's getting done. Sales are in. We're growing, and that's another thing you get when you're running a startup.
Well, it's almost like the money, especially in the entrepreneurial world, it's basically just a result of how good you are at something, so it's kind of a driver as well, like the financial growth. The cool thing about, a lot of people get into this because in the corporate world, you guys touch on it as well, they get to a point where the man finally says, nope, Like, I don't care where you're at. Like, nope. You know, and there's like an excitement, and which is why our vision is kind of the last question, the last piece of it, is because there's an excitement of not knowing where this could go. Yeah. Like, you guys have no idea where this could go. And we're here, obviously, talking to you guys, but you have a pretty damn good product on top of that. There's a niche. There's a way. You guys are creative. It's very cool. It's got a sexy vibe to it. I think your guys' young age playing in the athletic world, I think it's awesome. And so it's kind of cool now, and now all of a sudden your excitement is, all right, well, let's see where we can get. Let's see where we can get. And I think, we talk a lot in the psychology world, but a big psychology piece of the human mind is that growth is a big piece of happiness, right? And so when you grow, you're continuously excited, right? So now all of a sudden you have to continue to see growth. Your guys' story is phenomenal, but also look at how much you embrace struggle. I mean, the struggle is almost it's probably why we're sitting in the room talking to everybody, but the struggle became the addiction to grow, and it just keeps let's hammer it. And that's why this is essentially that's what Dave and I want to do. Like, that's what we want to go and find and hear from the people who do exactly what you guys just talked about. So as our side, and kind of as wrapping those things up, love having us here and showing us a little bit of the facility, which is awesome. So grateful to not only sit in your guys' offices and talk to you, but also giving us a ton of nuggets of information on entrepreneurship, but more importantly, just kind of sticking with your boys and then believing in something and going at it. So from my first initial reaction of being with the NoSweat crew, that was awesome. I appreciate you guys sharing some of that stuff.
Appreciate you having us.
Yeah, no, thank you.
It was actually it was fun to sit here and reminisce.
Yeah, it's good to reflect on the chaos.
Makes us love each other a little bit more. The day-to-day gets grindy. Yeah.
I mean, you guys are you go around the room and everyone we talk to, part of the reason probably, whether you even know it or not, is just the clarity of the answers to those questions. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do, Harvey and I, when we talk to some of these younger athletes or younger people, just younger people in general, is sort of creating that foundation upon which we can jump off from and then also land on when shit starts getting bad. Yeah. I mean, and that's what we're trying to do and so when you talk to perhaps someone transitioning into a new thing, whether it be an athlete or someone like that, if they can take a nugget from one of you guys and be like, hey man, this has been done. Like, it can be done again. It kind of gives them, like we said, you're just trying to plant a seed. And so, again, to hear the clarity on the answers to those questions, you guys probably didn't even know it, but that's what's serving you, right? And that's what and that's what we're kind of trying to push is like, let's get wise on some of these. Let's start talking about some of these questions. Let's get to know them and then practice them so that we can use them and then we can tweak them. And that's what's kind of the fun part about this life thing that we're all doing is creating that, practicing it, and then sustaining it.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I mean, obviously, is your audience pretty younger in general? I mean, is that ranges? I'm sure.
It's one of our branches.
Okay, yeah. I mean, as a younger kid, if you would ask me those three questions, I've been like, oh yeah, you just some hypothetical, whatever. You're not gonna be able to define that, right? Like, don't sit here and think like if somebody asks you, what drives you, what's your goal, whatever. Sure, write it down, write what you think it is, but you're gonna learn that through the struggle.
Totally.
Trust the process, go through it. Like, fall in love with that process of whatever you're doing to get the result. But as you do that, it's gonna become clear like what actually does drive you, right? And then use that and parlay that. Take don't take your first startup or whatever you dive into or entrepreneurial endeavor or failures like a reflection of you. Take it as a learning experience and grow from that and move 100%. On. The first one's going to be tough. You're going to make endless mistakes, but you know what? The second one's going to be that much better. Third one's going to be that much better, and it's just you're going to build upon that. So don't fall victim or think you have to have it all figured out right away. Just dive in and start doing it.
Right. So, well, it's that experience is the best learner, right? And so you're not going to be able to go and tell a high school kid like you're going to be fine, but like. It's important to seek that stuff out. Like you said, like act. A lot of us sit here and think, and we have these good ideas, but it's that first step that's like the toughest. But then once you do it, and you do it more often and more often, then it's like, wow, I like this. It's almost addicting, right? You get kind of comfortable with that discomfort, and you seek it out then because you learn, and all of a sudden you learn. You start to learn more, and you gain more knowledge. You become more comfortable with all of these different scenarios you're going to encounter, and that's what that good life stuff is all about. And so, again, we appreciate. Marty always likes to thank. Biggest form of leadership is giving away your time, which we greatly appreciate, and very thankful for you, giving us your energy and your insight and being able to share a story with us and carving a little time out of your day to share your journey, because it's pretty neat. And so from the MindStrong Project Den, we greatly appreciate what you guys have done. We are big fans of what you do. We're going to continue to watch with pins and needles about what's coming in for the next year or two. And we're very excited. And again, thank you, gentlemen.
Appreciate it.
Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.